All right, I'm reviewing the Punisher 2004 movie with Thomas Jane and John Travolta. This movie felt a bit PG-13 for Punisher. Was very clean, really it's full of eccentric scenes and eccentric characters, and the Punisher isn't, the ruthless loose cannon kind of relentless tormented emotionally tormented individual, or he's just not that ruthless. He spends most of his time more so toying with the criminals, punishing them, sort of, I guess you could say. But it's more toying with criminals than anything. There are times when Frank Castle from the comics or Punisher from the comics would have just straight up executed multiple people here in the film, and these are opportunities he regularly passes up. He kind of just keeps messing around with the villains. This is very different from. I feel like this is very different from Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, than just a big departure from everything. This film, all the mobsters and criminals feel very white collar, and all they uh, when they go and assassinates Frank's family, they assassinate all of his relatives, like all of them. But I felt like the scenes in there, they were just very strange. Like, yeah, these generic action trope things that you check off, like people, cars jumping over heels, and then the motorcycle or dirt bike. And beyond that, it's just the quality of this film. There's nothing wrong with the quality of production or acting in this film. It's just, it's a very big departure from what Punisher should be, and it's just full of eccentric characters and eccentric scenes. Frank Castle has these very strange neighbors that they try to come off comical, and they're just weird, and it's just weird. And I mean, there are some quality Punisher scenes in here. For instance, Punisher going and getting all the. I can't remember. I can't even remember John Travolta's character's name. He gets all that money, and he has these guys throw his money off out in the streets, and people go running out in the streets to catch the money. And then there's this very weird scene where two guys try to go up and see what the hell's going on while all this money's being thrown out. Uh, they see Frank Castle, they pause, and they start backing up as he's walking toward them. And then he puts his hand on his gun like it's some old west scene or whatever, and they put their hands on their guns, and it's kind of like an old west standoff. It just doesn't fit. And the music too, the music in this movie, it doesn't fit. It's like this Esperanto, very strange type sounding, just uh there's some good scenes though, like when this dude's beating on this woman's door and trying to get her to talk to him. He's like this abusive dick. Frank just comes out, he's like, get out. And he very simply handles that dude, like just knocks him around and hits him on the nose with his own knife. And there's some funny stuff in here, like Frank pretty much, tricking the main villain into killing everybody he cares about. And then I bet the payoff to that is kind of lackluster, because by the time he tells him, you don't really get to see, John Travolta's emotional reaction to the fact that he was manipulated and stuff. And ultimately, John Travolta comes off as a weak villain. He's more of a threat to himself. Oh, but There's just not a lot of great scenes. There is one somewhat comical scene where Punisher tells this guy his whole story about how. If you've seen this movie, you know what it is. It's this. He's acting like he's gonna use a blowtorch on this guy, and he tells him that it's gonna get so hot, all you're gonna smell is burning meat and feel cold, searing pain. And the reality is, he's got him strung up, and behind him, he's just touching him with an icicle while he's burning meat with a blowtorch. Uh, that's not something Comic Book Punisher would do. Comic Book Punisher would have used an actual blowtorch on the guy. Uh, and there's other things that are wrong with this film too. Like he does wear the Punisher shirt multiple times. Like I said, in that building with those in that standoff with those people, he armors up his car. That was kind of cool too. He's got this muscle car that he kind of armors up. Uh, but you don't really get that whole battle van thing. Uh, get a battle muscle car. And there's another strange scene where a villain decides, well, here's a big problem. Frank Castle decides to let the bad guys know that he's still alive when he comes back. He puts his tombstone, he strategically plants his tombstone on this golf course where John Travolta's character regularly goes to play. He lets them know that he's alive. It would have been better if they thought he was dead, and he just did all these things that he did. But it feels like they needed to pad the script or something because they didn't know what they were really doing. Uh, I just, I just don't see why he would want to let him know he's alive, especially if his play is to get John Travolta to pretty much kill his best friend and his wife. You make him less aware that you're there. You could really mess with him hard. And Frank also outs the fact that he's still alive to the cops, and there's like no real repercussions to him just randomly showing up in front of the press, in front of the police, and like all he does is give him like a short little lecture about how nobody's been arrested for the death of his family yet, and nothing else is ever brought up about him just suddenly showing up not dead. Uh, and his neighbors are just so weird. Like to try, they at a certain point in the film they try very hard to start trying to be his friend and telling him that he's family, and it's just very strange, really strange. Thomas Jane, there's nothing wrong with his performance or him being cast as a Punisher at all. It's just this movie. It's really strange. Like, it's not dark and gritty or particularly brutal as Punisher should be. He's not a ruthless loose cannon that just slaughters people like an unreasonable savage. It's just. I don't know. This movie is very, very weird, including the end scene. Well, I want to say one scene. It feels very cheesy where he's talking about number two, you do this, and number three, you do that, or something like. It's not about killing them; it's about punishment, and it's like it's not about it can't come from an emotional place and be authentic or whatever. Uh, and then he kind of like stands up and he's got the Punisher vest on and stuff. It's just this very cheesy moment, like the way they shot it or whatever. It's just like you're taking me out of the film trying too hard or whatever. Uh, there is an actual very excellent Thomas Jane short film, kind of a short fan film that is much, much better than this here. Uh, and I felt like that summed up how Punisher should be a lot more than this. And I'll link that below so you can check that out. That that's only about 10 minutes long, and you can pretty much skip viewing this whole movie. You can watch that and skip viewing this whole movie because honestly, this movie is not that great. There's not anything like like I said, none of the acting's bad. The quality, the production's not particularly bad. It's just very dry and it lacks real epic scenes. I mean, there are some knockdown, drag out fights in here, but it's just too eccentric and not focused enough on the dark, gritty world. Like I said, it feels like a very clean film. It feels very clean, as in comparison to what they've done today with Punisher on Netflix, especially on Daredevil season 2. This is nothing in comparison to that. So I'm gonna give this film. Thomas Jane's performance was good, but it's just not Punisher enough for me. He does not compete with John Berthel. And I'm gonna give this film a 4 out of 10. Honestly, I mean Thomas Jane looks the part, but frankly, the movie just isn't really well written. Uh, yeah, 4 out of 10. Like, subscribe, comment. What are your opinions of this? Check out that short film below that I've linked down below. Check it out. It's really good. Really good. It's worth the watch. Uh, I'm not monetized, so check out my GoFundMe link and my PayPal if you want to support my channel. Anything helps, I'd appreciate it. Stay awesome. Rock on.